The Centre presents a new podcast, CBME and You, a podcast devoted to promoting awareness and debate around controversial ethical issues in biomedicine.
Welcome back to CBME and You, a podcast about biomedical ethics. Today, what happens if you have dementia and your personality changes? Should everyone respect the preferences of your old self or the new self? What does it mean to be a self anyway? Do I have a self? Somebody help me!
Calm down.
Breathe. Joining us to solve my existential crisis is Rand Hirmiz, Assistant Professor of Philosophy at Singapore Management University. Welcome, Rand.
Hi. That's a really nice intro. So dramatic.
Yeah.
In case you can't tell, it's Friday.
Yeah.
We're so excited to have you on the pod. We're going to do some easy, fun questions before we get into James's existential crisis. They're there.
Can't wait.
They're there. First question, coffee or copy?
So you guys took me for my first coffee today. I think you wanted me. You were so excited about it. You wanted me so badly. I do like it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it tastes like coffee. But here's what it tastes like: coffee with milk. Like coffee with milk and sugar is what coffee tastes like to me.
Okay. So I just have a quick question about this. Do you just drink like instant coffee?
No.
Oh.
So I normally, and by the way, it's been one of the hardest parts about moving to Singapore has been, first off, you don't sell like half and half here.
What?
You don't know what half
Milk
and half
and
is.
cream?
That's exactly. Yeah, so it's 10% cream and you keep it in the fridge in a
Okay,
carton.
but why is it half and half if it's only 10% cream?
Oh, because like full cream is like a lot higher.
So full cream is actually 50-50. So
No.
half and half.
No. So milk is like 2%. Like whole milk is like 2%. There's like whole milk is 3%. But there's cream. Okay, so actual like full cream. Okay, like whipped cream, like the kind that you would make whipped cream out of. I think that's like 40-ish%, like closer to like 40%.
So closer to half and half.
So half and half is like 10%. It's literally called half and half.
Okay, this makes
It makes no sense. I know.
Okay.
To you. But so that's how I would, and like if you go to like the US, like if you go to a Starbucks or Tim Hortons or anything like that, you would order a coffee. So like a double at Tim Hortons. Not here. Oh, you don't know what a double is?
No, but we do have Tim Hortons.
You do have Tim Hortons. They don't have creamer. They don't have half and half.
What's
and they don't
creamer?
I'm really enjoying this because the first time you have Sinead not knowing about a coffee thing.
This isn't coffee, this is milk.
No, it's not milk. It's creamer.
What's creamer?
It's half and half. It's so crazy because like in the US or Canada, like this would not be a conversation that will happen. You will never have to.
Okay, so is the half and half the creamer in the milk?
No, it's not. Instead of milk, we don't milk is too milky.
So why have milk?
No,
Why not
it's
have
not
cream?
milk. It tastes so different. It's like, okay, so I'll tell you what it's closest to, and then it's gonna make sense to you, because I'm used to drinking my coffee with cream, with cream and sweetener. When I came here, they don't exist in Singapore, but I've been finding evaporated creamer.
Evaporated milk.
No, cream.
Evaporated cream?
So there's evaporated milk, but there's also evaporated creamer, and they actually exist. So you can buy them from like grocery stores here. And I keep them in the fridge. You don't need to keep them in the fridge because they're canned, but I keep them in the fridge and then I use them in my coffee. And it tastes so close-ish to the cream.
Okay.
Wai Kyung has almost never chimed in during a podcast before. And so I guess what did it for him, the Rubicon, the line that he would not accept is the idea of evaporated cream.
Yeah. Okay, you know what? Let's move on. What country do you want to travel to next?
I mean, I have a long bucket list, but for now, during the break, I'm planning to go to KL, Malaysia. It's really good for like a short trip. I have like, let's say 4 days. I can just go. It's very affordable from here. The flights are really cheap. Hotels are very affordable. So it's going to be a really nice trip. I'm going to go see some like temples and go to the food markets and just enjoy.
Yes. Excellent. Haven't been to KL yet, but I've just booked a holiday to Tioman Island, which is off like the northeast coast of Malaysia.
Yes,
North,
somewhere there.
It's like a 3-hour drive and then a ferry and then a 4-hour drive. The long weekend that's coming up. I'm so excited. I'm going to swim. I'm just never going to get out of the water.
That sounds amazing.
Sorry, this was meant to be about you.
No, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, so like the similar thing, but completely different. One's a city, one's a beach.
Okay. What's your go-to karaoke song?
Oh, so I like duet karaoke's. So I like You're the One That I Want from Greece.
Yeah! Okay, she's coming with us. We go to karaoke all the time.
Yeah.
You are invited.
Okay, thank you.
We have a voucher we need to use.
We do. Not valid on Fridays and Saturdays. We learned that the hard
James
way.
didn't read the terms and conditions, which I asked him to.
You're the lawyer. I don't know why you just don't do this yourself.
That's your voucher. Anyway, this is about her.
I'm excited. I'm down.
Okay,
All right.
excellent.
The karaoke group expands.
Yes.
Okay, time to get down to business, to the Peter Hunts. So in a paper that you've written recently, you describe a really interesting case. So it goes something like this. An elderly man with Alzheimer's residing in a Swedish care home has consistently been served vegetarian meals. And he's a long-standing vegetarian, so he's committed to ethical vegetarianism. One day, he was mistakenly given another resident's meal, which contained meat. And after eating it and enjoyed it, he's like, oh my God, meat! And he refused to return to his usual vegetarian diet, right? And now we seem to have a situation here where there seems to be a conflict between what he used to believe, his long-standing commitments, and his now self, who has dementia, but this is a person who says, no, look, I want to have this steak. It's tasty. So what do we make of this kind of case? What do we do and why?
Yeah, that touches on like a really, really tough issue where there's this person who throughout his life has made this commitment, has thought about this, and this is something that's been really important to him. And every day of his life, he's made the decision, the active decision that I'm going to refrain from having meat because these are my values. And then, he has dementia, and then he becomes now this person who we'll say can't, I guess it's a complicated issue, but either can't recall his reasons for his values, or just doesn't care about them, or just doesn't acknowledge them, or just literally is not even in the place to be questioning what the implications of eating this and not eating it are. They're just in a place where tastes better than what I've been eating so far. So why can't I keep having it? I'm so confused. Why do my friends in the home get to have this and I'm not allowed to?
Yeah.
So I think it touches on this really, really tough situation where there's this conflict between the person's own selves, the sort of pre-dementia self and the post-dementia self, where now they have conflicting interests. And if we can kind of imagine them being in the same room together, we can see how like this conflict would come about. It's like trying to convince yourself. I don't know if you've ever like tried to convince your future, like if you've ever been in a place where you think, oh, I'm worried about what my future self, when they're emotional or when they're in this situation, I'm worried about what they're going to do. So you like record a voice note for your future. I don't know if you guys do that.
This is how we should get out of bed in the morning.
Yeah, I was going to tell this exactly.
This happens to me on a daily basis. I'm going to get up in the morning. I'm going to go for a swim. I'm going to be productive. And then the morning comes and I'm groggy. I'm tired and I don't want to be anywhere but bed. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
And then I've asked Joshua, my partner, to come wake me up. And he's like, come on, you've got to go swimming. And I'm like, no.
It really feels like a different version of you. Yeah. And so if we have that kind of conflict, you can imagine how something where and it's more than just sleeping or getting out of bed. It's something that really matters to you. And so there's this conflict where now, let's say now you've just been diagnosed with dementia, and now you have this worry that, oh my God, what's going to happen to the values that I hold so dear right now? What's going to happen to all the commitments that I hold right now? Am I going to forget about them? Am I going to be the kind of person who gives them up? So from the one side, the person who was committed to not eating meat, there's this worry of wait, is my narrative going to change? Is who I am? Is it going to be broken by what happens when I'm no longer in control of this, when I'm no longer capable of revisiting the reasons for my values? On the other hand, the current version, who literally just wants to eat meat because it tastes so good, you can also imagine how that would be confusing and how that can be hurtful of you just not understanding why. Why can't I have it? I want it. Why are you refusing it? and not understanding why. So there's this conflict, and then the question we get to is when we're faced with, these kinds of situations, but also, of course, much bigger, much more important situations about someone's life and their values and the things that matter to them and their commitments. How do we settle the question of how to weigh the values and the things that are important and I don't know, the word is like slipping from me. Just the preferences of the current self who has the dementia and their previous self who was more capable of making their decisions and thinking through their values. How do we weigh those against each other? And so, that's kind of the issue.
So based on the vegetarianism example, because my brain was going, look, I was vegetarian, been vegan. Now I live in Singapore, and char siu and roast pork rice is one of my favorite dishes. We understand that people's like diet preferences can be really important to them, but also like the content of that preference is simply like it's just eating steak. Like the harm that you might do to that person by forcing them against what their current desires are might outweigh helping them to protect that value. So does like the content of that value matter? Is it like, okay, look, you used to hate wearing purple, but now you really want to wear purple? Or you just let them wear the purple? But if it's something more important, like maybe like a religious view or a really deep-rooted like ethical position like vegetarianism, does that matter a bit more?
Of course, yeah. I think if someone always wore a certain color and then now they're trying to wear a different color, it would seem a little bit unreasonable to say, well, no, your whole life you haven't, so you can't anymore.
No purple for you.
But I think there are decisions that I think we do give more weight to, things that are less about preferences and more about this is the kind of person I am. This is my narrative. This is who I want to be. And this is who I want to be remembered as after I'm gone. And I think decisions like that, and of course there are decisions that are going to be bigger than just not eating meat, and there are decisions that are going to be less than that. But something like religion. Yeah, someone just deciding to do something that would conflict with their religious beliefs afterwards. Things like that.
Like not eating halal food.
Yes.
Well, just to ramp up the stakes even more, you can imagine cases like, I think it's the Jehovah's Witnesses who don't want blood transfusions. So what if you have like somebody who has been a Jehovah's Witness their whole life, and now they have dementia, and now maybe they need a blood transfusion, and they're like, give it to me. It's like, okay, well, this is literally a life or death situation. If we don't give this person who wants to have a blood transfusion the blood,
absolutely,
they might die.
Yeah. And so I think these become tougher cases because, again, it's no longer just about preference. It's no longer about just like, this tastes good to me now and it didn't taste good to me before, or I like this now or I didn't like it before. It's really like a core, like it's a big part of who you are as a person and who you want to be as a person and how you want to represent yourself throughout your life. And then it seems like, for the same reason, I would imagine like someone... There's this discussion of whether like posthumous harms are even a thing. Like if after you die, someone makes up a rumor about you having done all these things that you didn't do, are you really harmed? And for the same reason, I think that I'm tempted to say that you will be. I also want to say that the actions of your post-dementia self not being in line with the kind of person that you've worked your whole life to be would also hurt you.
Okay, so based on what you've said just then, and also I've read your paper, so I do know the answer to this.
I've done the homework.
So you do think that some priority should be afforded to the then version of yourself over the now version of yourself. And so how did you figure that out? Like, what's your measure for making that claim?
Yeah. So to some extent, you're right to some extent. So I think for the most part, if we are able to repudiate our previous values, so if we're able to understand the reasons for why we decided on having a certain value to begin with, and then also understand that reason no longer applies. Like if we're able to have that, then I think you should be able to break your prior commitments or change them. Because what I don't want to say is that anytime you make a commitment, you should never be allowed to break it. Like anytime you have a value, if you decide to be a vegetarian, you are literally never allowed to break that. No, I think if you, and a lot of people do, like a lot of people will try veganism or vegetarianism and then will change their minds later. But it's usually after like reflection, like, okay, I understood the reasons that I made that commitment. I also understand now this new information, or I understand that my previous reasons no longer apply, so I'm allowed to break it or something like that. That seems like a more rational way to justify it, as opposed to someone just saying, I just want this now, and like not even thinking about their previous reasons. So what I want to say is, in order to really be able to break a commitment, you have to have this capacity to have this is what Harry Frankfurt calls second order volitions. So we have our first order desires. This is like, I want this.
I want to sleep in.
I want to sleep in. That's a first order desire. I just want to do that. And then we have our second order desires. And second order desires are desires about our desires. So you want to sleep in, but you also have this second order desire about your first order desire about sleeping in.
I don't want to sleep in. Is that what we're...
No, that's literally it. Yeah.
I want to sleep in, but I don't want to sleep in.
That's right.
Unfortunately for me, my second order desires never seem to come through.
Like, I'm thinking about that. I'm like, I think I still want to sleep in.
Our lives would be a lot easier if we just wanted to sleep in. So there we have first order desires, second order desires, and then we have second order volitions, which are really these desires that are second order desires. Certain second order desires are the ones that guide us to action. So, for example, I could have a desire for meat. I could also have the second order desire that has to do with my desires about meat, that I don't want to be the kind of person who eats meat. I don't want to be the kind of person who goes with their desire to eat meat. And then the second order volition would be, well, I want my desire to refrain from eating meat to be the one that guides me to action. And if you get to a point where you're no longer capable of having this capacity to form second order desires, this ability to think about your desires, then it's a little bit, it's tough to say that you're able to now break, or like cancel out or like repudiate your prior commitments. It would be, you can, I mean, there are instances where we do this, but I want to say it's a mistake to just break a prior commitment without that kind of reflection.
I've heard this termed reflective endorsement. This idea that like you have your first order preferences, or like impulses, emotions, things that you don't generate reasons for. They just sort of pop into your head. Like, I want to do this. And then you reflectively endorse on that and go, is this in line with my values? So I think like in my head, I categorize it as like first order preferences and then second order values. And then that's the way that my brain seems to like understand that. So I get your point that if a person then doesn't have capacity to reflect on their values and check themselves and their emotions and their impulses in accordance with their values, it would seem like it would seem kind of like a mistake to then allow them to go back on their own values that they've formed over a lifetime and that they've spent moving towards in like a particular narrative. Makes sense.
Yeah. Although I think there might be a bit of a difference.
No.
Our job is to be critical. So yeah, you might think that there is a bit of a difference between some ways, the typical ways in which we fail to live up to our commitments, and cases of dementia. And that's that we come back, right? Like, if I think to myself, well, I'm gonna do it. Today's the day I stop procrastinating and start getting my life together.
I will give you $100 on the day you finally follow through.
I will give me $100, but it's not gonna happen. We both know that. But I go through the day, I procrastinate, I spend half the day in bed, etc. And then I end up the next day going like, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. I really screwed up. Now, so there's a sense of, bouncing back and forth between the two. So there's a sense in which those second order desires do matter because I'll go back to them. In some cases of dementia, there might be some people who will just never go back. Like those commitments that they once made are just gone. They'll never matter for them or maybe anybody else ever again. Yeah. So does that matter? Does that change things? Like why should we care about those commitments when they're never gonna matter again?
Yeah. So, I mean, you're thinking of it. Here's the thing. I think what you're saying makes sense if we were just thinking about preferences. And again, if it was just about the color, like with the way that I dress, or the kind of food, if let's say I like bananas right now and I've never liked apples, I don't really care if I end up only eating apples and never eating bananas again. Like there are some things like that where I think it's not going to be not tasty to me anymore. Whatever happens, happens. But I think there are, with things like values, with things that are like, again, the way that we think of ourselves, like the sort of bigger way that we want to represent ourselves and the way that we want to think of our life narrative, I think it does matter because it's not just about us in terms of like how things feel to us, but it's more about like you caring about certain issues, you caring about your future self doing those things, not just because it feels good to you or not good to you right now, but just because that's what you want in general. And it's the same thing. I mean, if you are vegetarian, you probably want other people to have that kind of like
respect for you,
respect for your what you're doing. Like not what you're, but for like what you're trying to endorse, like the things that matter to you, like there are certain causes that matter to us, not just because it feels good for us, but you actually care about them in the bigger scheme of things. You care about what it says about the bigger things. I don't know if this is making sense.
No, I think that makes sense. Like if, I was vegetarian for like my whole life, like let's imagine I'm Peter Singer, a lifelong vegan, gets to a point, loses capacity. I think that he's made it such a big part of his life that he would want his friends to keep him accountable even if he changed his mind because they would dishonor him. Like respect for his agency and his decision making.
The thing is, I mean, yeah, absolutely. That's a big part of it. But also just it's like representing that thing that matters to him. He doesn't ever want to be the kind of person who is seen eating meat as though like eating meat is something that is okay. It's that like what you're endorsing and what you want the whole world. Usually when we have certain values, we want other people, like they're kind of values that we want other people to also have. And it's that kind of thing that I'm worried about. So think of like Malala, for example, her whole life, and for the rest of her life, I imagine, has this cause that she's very committed to. And if after she gets dementia, she says, I've never understood why women should ever be educated. It seems heartbreaking.
Seems like someone should honor her by taking down her Twitter account and
Literally.
like, we're just not going to let you say these things.
Literally. Yes, exactly. Or just like at the very least, just like with the vegetarian example, say, no, that's not actually what the view that we should attribute to her. That's like a mistake. And it's this,
Mistake. I'm so sorry. It was right there.
Oh, I just got it.
I'm so sorry.
It came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I want to be remembered for being funny, so.
Well, then you're going to have to try a little harder. We're good friends here.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. One of the things when I was reading your paper, I was really intrigued by is how, like, the role of relationality in the sense of, like, developing your identity and understanding your sense of self. So, like, there are many, like, feminist theories about, like, relational autonomy and the idea that the self is not, a vacuum. We don't exist in a vacuum. Who we are is made up of our relationships around us. And so I was wondering if you'd considered how, like, a way for those relationships to protect that person's autonomy is to continue to, like, uphold the values that they spent so long endorsing. Because we could then justify and identify who is responsible then for helping that person who has lost capacity to continue to, like, practice their values. So it's like, for example, if there's a stranger on the street and I know them because they're famous, that, let's just say I don't know Peter. I see him on the street. I see him eating a steak. I've never met him in my life. I go up and I go, you shouldn't be eating that. It's like that's really not my position to be doing that. Whereas maybe his close family and friends would have much more moral power or responsibility even. I was just sort of wondering if you'd thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, that could be part of the, like, giving, like, part of the advance directive to say this is who I want to be making decisions on my behalf when I'm in that when I'm no longer have the capacity to make decisions for myself. I think that's a big part of it. The thing is, though, we're kind of back to the same question. If your post-dementia self says, no, I don't want this person making decisions on my behalf anymore.
Ooh.
What do you do at that
Plot
point?
twist. Particularly when people with dementia will often forget.
Right.
And, forcing a person or, forcing that relationship or friendship or forcing someone that they no longer recognize into the room could be quite harmful to them.
But then also they could end up in a position where they would say, like, this other person no longer understands this new version of me is how I think the other side might argue too. They might say, like, okay, maybe whoever gave the advance directive for this person in their life, for their mom or their spouse to make decisions on their behalf, that person only understands their previous version of them. They no longer understand this. So it kind of complicates this. So you still kind of have to, we're kind of back to the same sort of problem. But I think, I mean, what you're saying is right in line with what I want to say, which is like, again, part of respecting that person's wishes and their values at that time is also respecting who they trust to make sure that those values are kept.
Just that line, "You don't understand me anymore," just sounds like a goth teenager or just any teenager.
Nobody understands me. Mom.
So on this grounds, maybe teenagers shouldn't be making their own decisions.
We know this.
That's why they're legally not allowed to make
We were
decisions.
there.
We might have to cut that joke.
So I just want to shift gears a little bit, and now, not to be that guy, I'm going to bring in metaphysics.
Let's do it.
Why?
So I guess so far we've kind of been going between two kinds of modes. One sense we've been talking about this self and then that self, almost as if there are two separate people kind of in conflict with each other.
Yeah.
And then at certain points we've also been talking about it as if it's the same person. And this brings up a pretty old debate in philosophy about what the self means, right? Mm-hmm. And there are some views in philosophy that that say the self is constituted by some of our mental states, like our memories, our personality, and our commitments. So there are some people who would say, look, if you've really changed that much as a person, if you really don't remember anything, if you really have different beliefs or values or whatever, then you might legitimately be a different person. And in that sense, it'd be weird to say the past self should have power over what the new, current, updated self should be able to do. It's a kind of weird paternalism or unjustified authority. So how, I guess, what do we want to make of this kind of argument?
I think, you're absolutely right. That is one view, that what makes me the same me that I was yesterday is like memories and consciousness, that I remember the things that yesterday me did. And there are stronger accounts of this. There are accounts that'll say, if you don't have the same memories, you're really no longer the same person. That's a little bit strong, because then you have to say that your 5-year-old self isn't really yourself anymore.
My 7 a.m. self is not myself. I've been completely honest.
Yeah, seems plausible.
Actually, yeah.
I think I'm literally a different person.
100%. I think I become 3 or 4 different peoples between the times of 6 a.m. and 10 a.m.
That's impressive. It's like you have a superpower.
That's one way to look at it. Sorry.
It is impressive, actually.
I'm doing philosophical theories here in the podcast.
It's like you go to Parfit or whatever fancy philosopher is like, you're failing to take into account how dysfunctional I am.
Sorry, where were we?
Yeah. So there are. It's a little bit strong, because I don't know if we want to make that commitment that my 5-year-old self is not this me, even though there's really very, very little that is very similar between you and your 5-year-old self. The thing is, though, I think we can keep, even if we keep the same sort of account of consciousness, but we make it more about I don't know how to say this. There is an actual way of saying it that's just slipping me right now.
Continuation.
Was
it the example? It's okay, I don't remember who I was a year, maybe 5 years ago, but I remember who I was yesterday.
Yes.
And yesterday me remembers who I was the day before.
Perfect.
That was so clear in your paper. Thank you.
Thank you. It's not clear to my Friday.
It's because you're a different self.
We all have the experience of like writing a paper and then like going back to it a few months later and like, what? How?
Yes.
It goes one of two ways. It goes, what the hell was I thinking?
Or like, damn.
I am cut out for this.
Yeah. Thank you so much for helping me.
You're so welcome.
Yes, connection. Yeah, so that's right. So I think like a much more, we can still stick to the view and say like, you know, we don't have to say that the self is only the self because of like numerical identity, that like it's the one is one. We can say like it's still about consciousness, it's still about memory, but it's more about the connection. Like I'm connected, I'm strongly connected to my yesterday self, and my yesterday self is strongly connected to my 2 days ago self, and so on, until back when I was 5 years old. And so if that's how we think of it, I think there is a good reason to still think that patients with dementia are still have the same identity. There have been some studies that have been done that kind of show some reasons that tell us that they are the same person. So, you know, things like them saying, like them just even acknowledging that there was a time where they were different. Them saying like, I used to remember more. My memory's not as good as it used to be. Or I used to read more, or like little things like that, where there is some connection that hasn't been 100% severed. There is still some link to some previous version of themselves. And I think that even if it comes out every once in a while, even if it comes out on some days, I think that's enough of a reason to think that they're not actually two separate people in the way that a stranger would be. We don't have to say it's the same relationship that you have to your yesterday self, but we can say it's stronger than a relationship you would have to a stranger, where you have no business telling them what their values should be or what they should hold on to and what commitments they're not allowed to break.
I like the idea of leaving room for just like changing one's mind.
Yes.
Like it's completely acceptable to be vegetarian or not. Not according to Peter Singer, but and so it's you can, you know, look at someone with dementia and be like, okay, like, yeah, you're right. Like you remember that you used to be this, but you decided that you're not now. But that would be very different to someone going, what do you mean I never ate meat?
Right.
That, like I think the way you worded it was just so interesting. It's just that if you don't have that capacity for like reflecting on your values and checking your preferences in line with your values, then, you know, you are a completely different person. You sort of lack those capacities to make agency or decisions that, you know, we should be respecting.
So this leaves me wondering about something, because I think I'm persuaded by the idea that there's some sense in which I've made a mistake if I have a commitment and I just, you know, go like, don't feel like it the next day. But usually in many cases, that's not, people might say, hey, you want to think about that a little bit more? But it's usually not a call for people to stop me. So I guess, would people be morally justified, or would people have the right to stop dementia patients from just eating meat if they just felt like it?
Yeah, I love that question. Yeah, because you might say, why? Why do we have this this benefit? Yeah, if I committed to stop drinking or stop smoking or whatever it is, and then tomorrow I just went and I wanted to, yeah, you could say it's a mistake. I committed and then I broke my commitment, but who has the right to like actually stop me?
I shouldn't step in.
You shouldn't step in. I'm.
Oh, I'll step in.
We need that. We need a friend like that.
Not for his benefit, but because I can just tell him what to do.
Yeah, she likes doing that. It's like a sport for her.
Oh, yeah. Please continue.
But yeah, the thing is though, we have that benefit because we are still capable of second order volitions, and we may not always employ it, we may not always use it, but it is there. And so the fact that we have access to it, I think, is something that differentiates us from that. And again, when the question isn't about like what you should do, given that you have the capacity to do whatever you want, but the question becomes, what is in the best interest of your overall self, taking into account the then self and the now self, the pre-dementia and post-dementia self. Which one, given that there are conflicting values, conflicting preferences, what should we do that's going to benefit the overall well-being of the patient? What is really in their most overall interest? And if we were to ask that about you, if you committed to not smoking and then let's say you wanted to buy a pack of cigarettes, and we wanted to figure out for your overall self what really is the best decision. The best decision would be the one that you arrived at using your second order volitions when you had the capacity. And so I think it's a different case. We're allowed to because we have the option to employ our second order volitions at any point. We just sometimes choose not to, versus literally just not having access to it. And I think when you don't have access to it, you really do need to rely now on being, what's the word, like bonded? There's a bond, yeah, like binding yourself.
Constrained?
Yes, yeah, like binding yourself.
Yeah.
I think we do need that when we literally just don't have the capacity for it anymore. But again, just thinking overall of the decision, again, it is a mistake. If you were to always be making decisions that were in your overall best interest, you wouldn't break a commitment that you thought about very well. And so when we think about what should we do, what should we let patients have when their new preferences conflict with their prior ones, which one is less likely to be an error? And it's really, I want to say it's the one that they've arrived at the decision, they've arrived at the values and the preferences they arrived at after that kind of reflection that comes from having access to the capacity to form second order volitions.
Do you have any final questions?
No. There's so many questions.
That's a tough thing to end on.
But so little time.
Yes.
But so little time. So I think we'll just end it there. And maybe we'll have you back for part 2 where we talk about dying.
It has been an absolute pleasure. We've had so much fun on this podcast. It's been I think more laughing than talking.
It's a good sign.
Yeah.
For the listeners, I don't know what the experience will be like. Hopefully it's
Let
good.
us know in the comments.
Let us know in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe.
I told you his accents would come out.
Was that an accent?
When did you say my accents were
No, we weren't here.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for listening to our new podcast. Subscribe online and tune in every first of the month. In the meantime, listen to CBME and You and be savvy.